Rejected fat woman lived alone for years, until two giant Comanche asked for shelter. One fell for her. The wind sang lonely songs across the prairie, bending the tall grass as if bowing to the silence. At the edge of that silence stood a small wooden cabin, weathered by time and storms. Inside lived Clara Hensley, once the girl who had laughed freely, dreamed openly, and believed in love, until the world's cruelty carved those things out of her. Clara was large. Larger than the women who braided each other's hair in town, larger than the ones who twirled under lanterns at dances. And because of her size, she became invisible, or worse, mocked. Suitors never came knocking, except with cruel bets or mocking eyes. The men called her the cow behind the plow, women whispered poor thing when she passed, and children pointed without knowing the scars their laughter left behind. So Clara chose exile. She built her life with her own hands on the outskirts of Texas land, far enough that she could not hear the ridicule, but close enough that on Sunday mornings she could still hear the church bell faintly ringing, a reminder that God was there, even when people were not. She chopped her own wood, grew vegetables, kept chickens, and read her Bible by lantern light. The years rolled by, marked by seasons, not people. Loneliness became her only companion. She convinced herself she preferred it. Yet, every now and then, on cold nights when her fire burned low, she wondered what it would feel like to have someone look at her without scorn. Just once. One autumn evening, the kind that paints the sky in bruised purples and fiery reds, Clara heard something unusual: hoofbeats. They came heavy and slow, as if the horses carried weight, not just in bodies but in stories. She stepped onto her porch, shawl wrapped around her broad shoulders, and there they appeared. Two enormous Comanche men, draped in blankets of animal hide, their faces stern but weary. For a moment, fear coiled in Clara's stomach. Stories of Comanche raids traveled like wildfire in town. But these men, they didn't ride with the fire of conquerors. Their shoulders sagged, their eyes dimmed by exhaustion. They looked like wanderers, lost between the world that was and the world that no longer welcomed them. The taller one dismounted, his black hair brushing his chest. He spoke in broken English, voice deep as thunder. Storm comes. Night cold. We need shelter. Clara hesitated. The safe choice would be to send them away. Two strangers, giants compared to her, what if they harmed her? Yet, something in their eyes struck her heart. Not the glint of violence, but of need. She had lived years knowing what it felt like to be turned away for no reason other than existing. Could she now do the same to them? She nodded slowly. You can stay. I have stew. And fire. The men bowed their heads respectfully, a gesture so humble it made her chest tighten. Inside, Clara ladled thick venison stew into bowls, her hands trembling slightly. The men ate with quiet gratitude, every spoonful devoured as though it was life itself. She noticed scars on their arms, the way their eyes flicked to the window often, as if haunted by memories of pursuit. These were not raiders. These were survivors. When they finished, the shorter one, broad as an oak trunk, pressed his fist to his chest and murmured something in Comanche. The taller translated. He says, you gave food. Shelter. Heart of eagle. Clara's eyes stung. No one had ever spoken of her with such reverence. Days turned into weeks. The men, whose names she learned were Nakoni and Tatu, helped with chores. Nakoni, the taller one, was quieter, his voice low and deliberate, while Tatu was more light-hearted, surprising her with laughter that rolled like distant thunder. They chopped wood, mended her fence, and hunted game, insisting she keep what they brought. Clara found herself smiling more, her laughter awkward at first, as if she had forgotten how. She cooked, they worked, and evenings became a shared ritual of stories, hers about chickens that refused to lay, theirs about buffalo hunts and songs sung around campfires long gone. One night, as the fire crackled and shadows danced along the walls, Clara caught Nakoni's gaze lingering on her. She looked away quickly, heart pounding. Surely, she thought, it meant nothing. No man had ever looked at her that way, not truly. Yet, in the days that followed, she noticed it again. In the way his hand brushed hers when passing a bowl. In the way he watched her when she laughed at Tatu's jokes. Still, Clara's old scars rose. Don't believe it. Men look only to mock. But then came the storm. It was a beast of a night. Wind howled like wolves, rain hammered the roof, and thunder cracked the sky in two. Clara's lantern went out, plunging the cabin into trembling darkness. She rushed to latch the shutters when lightning split the air, revealing a fallen oak tree crashing toward her henhouse. Without hesitation, Nakoni stormed into the chaos, bare hands against the wind, and braced the timber long enough for Tatu to cut the trapped hens free. When they returned, soaked and shivering, Clara fell to her knees. "You could have died," she cried, voice breaking. Nakoni looked at her, water dripping from his hair, eyes fierce and unshaken. "Better me, than you." The words sliced through the walls Clara had built around her heart. She couldn't breathe. This man, this giant warrior, had chosen her safety over his life. For someone who believed she was worth nothing, that realization struck like holy fire. Later that night, as she wrapped blankets around him by the hearth, their hands brushed. Nakoni's calloused fingers lingered, then closed gently around hers. His voice was soft, almost reverent. "You think you are small. Weak. No. You are strong. World unkind, but you'd kind. Heart bigger than sky." Clara's tears fell freely then, not from sadness but release. Years of rejection, years of ridicule all dissolved in that moment. Someone saw her. Truly saw her. Not as a fat woman. Not as a recluse. But as Clara, the woman who gave shelter, who offered kindness without measure. Spring crept into the land, painting the prairies with wildflowers. The Comanche knew they could not stay forever. Too many soldiers patrolled, too many eyes hunted them. But Nakoni lingered. One morning, while Tatu prepared to ride out, Nakoni stood before Clara, holding something in his palm, a carved wooden figure, shaped like an eagle. "In my people," he said slowly, "eagle is spirit of strength. I give, to you. Because I give my heart too." Clara's breath caught. Her first instinct was disbelief. But the sincerity in his eyes banished doubt. She placed her trembling hand over his, closing it around the eagle. "You don't know what you've given me," she whispered. "No one ever wanted me. Not for who I am. But you've made me feel seen." Nakoni's answer was simple. "You are seen. Forever." The day he left with Tatu, Clara stood on the porch, clutching the eagle. The prairie stretched endless, but her heart no longer felt empty. Even if he never returned, she had been transformed. She had learned that worth is not measured in the eyes of the crowd, but in the love of even one soul who sees you for all that you are. Months later, as summer turned the fields golden, hoofbeats thundered again. Clara rushed out, heart racing. And there he was, Nakoni, alone this time. His face broke into the faintest of smiles as he dismounted. "I come back," he said simply. "For you." Clara's tears blurred the prairie sky, but her laughter rang pure as church bells. For the first time in her life, she wasn't invisible. She was loved. And so, the rejected woman who once hid from the world found her life transformed, not by thinness, beauty, or the approval of others, but by the power of kindness, courage, and a love that saw beyond flesh. Because sometimes, it only takes one act of compassion, offering shelter on a cold night, to open the door to a miracle. Sparkle's message: no matter how the world defines you, your kindness is your true worth. Love finds those who dare to give it, even when they think they have nothing left.